Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. We are coming to you live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. We are represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Got a good bit on tap for you guys today. We've got a comment from Paul Feinbaum about Nico Iamaleava that is going to that we're going to lead off with because it turned into today's tough question because it's kind of an intriguing question. Josh Heupel's rank among SEC coaches, not SEC, excuse me, all college football coaches. We're going to talk a little bit about that now. A bunch of different sites have Josh Heupel behind coaches. A lot of different sites have revealed their coach rankings now, and it's different from place to place. So we're going to talk about those and where he should be. Kalen DeBoer somehow shocked that Alabama missed the college football playoff. That'll be what the H. How are you shocked? You went 9-3 with losses to Vanderbilt and a 24-3 loss to Oklahoma. We're going to get to that. The NCAA football 2026 game date is released and the cover has been revealed. And in a certain way, the cover is a bit of a shot at the Vols, not on purpose, but it reveals two receivers who balled out as freshmen last year, whereas Tennessee had a freshman receiver who didn't ball out. But will they have a sophomore receiver ball out this year to get on the cover next year? That'll be bank on it. And the SEC spring meetings are going on. The big story with that right now is an 8-game schedule seems to be locked in. It doesn't look like they're able to get around that. We're going to talk about why, and that will be 4 downs as we close things out. Once again, the show represented by Banks & Jones. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. Tell a friend. We are building something great here at Off the Hook. We want you to be a part of it. We're going to have a lot of fun going forward, and we want you guys to fully be involved in what we're doing. So again, hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. Tell a friend. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Let's dive in now with today's tough question. Paul Feinbaum spoke earlier this week about Tennessee on SportsCenter. He was asked if Tennessee is fine or not fine, and his response was that they are not fine. Paul Feinbaum's quote was regarding Joey Aguilar replacing Nico Iamaleava. And here's what Paul Feinbaum said, quote, "This was the biggest story of the offseason with Nico leaving. Joey Aguilar from Appalachian State via UCLA is not the perfect answer. He's good, but he's not great. Nico could have been great, even though he wasn't last year. Quite frankly, I don't like Tennessee's playoff chances at all." Now, I will admit, I'm not crazy about Tennessee's playoff chances either because they have to visit Alabama and Florida. However, that leads to this question. How good could Nico Iamaleava have been if he stayed with Tennessee this upcoming year? Would he have been as good as he was last year? Would he have been better than what Joey Aguilar is going to be? Would he have been great? Or would he have been a Heisman contender? The poll question is up. Could Nico Iamaleava have been great if he stayed at Tennessee? You guys vote on it, yes or no. But the question is, how good could Nico Iamaleava have been? We've talked a lot about Joey Aguilar. We talked a lot about how people are saying good riddance to Nico Iamaleava with the money he was demanding. I get all of that, his status as a teammate, and there's a lot of things to feel about him. I understand it. More about his dad than him. But this is specifically about Nico Iamaleava and how good he could have been, what level he would have been at Tennessee had he stayed. I'm going to say this much. He would have been better than last year. And he wasn't bad last year. He wasn't bad last year the way people think. Nico Iamaleava would have had Lance Hurd fully healthy at left tackle. So he would have had better pass protection on that side. Assuming David Sanders takes a step, is able to start immediately as a freshman, he probably has better pass protection early this year than he did early last year. I'm sure being another year of playing college football, he processes things more quickly. But the big thing also is that I believe Nico Iamaleava was going to have better receivers this year. I told you guys for a while, I think one of the problems with Tennessee last year was that Nico wasn't able to deliver the ball to the receivers in the timing that he wanted to because they lost a step. Brew McCoy was not the same Brew McCoy that played the year before. I feel for him. I'm sorry he had to medically retire from football. I think he had 5-star talent, but that broken leg clearly slowed him down. And so there were clearly a couple of plays where I think Nico missed Bru McCoy because the timing was off based on the anticipated speed of Bru McCoy. Dante Thornton was coming off an injury too. Squirrel White played the whole year with a separated shoulder. I mean, there were a lot of reasons to not believe in them. I think that this year the receivers would have been significantly better with Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, and Chris Brazzell, who did play last year because of the injuries, now being a full-time starter. Nico processing things quicker, the tackles being healthy, so his pass protection likely being better early in the year, and the receivers being significantly better, particularly the ones now that have a year in the system, so they're able to pick things up, all could have made him great. I think it would have been great. I'll be honest. I think he actually would have been great. And then here's the fourth part. I think he would have gotten more comfortable and more used to throwing jump balls. People question why he didn't throw those to Chris Brazzell last year because Chris Brazzell can win jump balls. I think it's because Chris Brazzell had to work himself in and out of the rotation. Sometimes it was Chris Brazzell. Sometimes it was Dante Thornton. Sometimes it was Bru McCoy, who just didn't have the physical tools to be able to win those jump balls. Taking all that into account, I think Nico Iamaleava, I think he would have been great. I think he would have been a Heisman contender this year at Tennessee. And honestly, I don't think Joey Aguilar will be as good as Nico Iamaleava would have been. So Tennessee is going to miss him to a certain degree. Now, caveat, losing Nico allowed Tennessee to go get Colton Hood out of Colorado at cornerback. I think they've been able to upgrade a little bit on the talent front with more NIL money, which is a big deal. So Nico Iamaleava at $4 million? No, not worth it. Not worth it at all. Okay. And so, but just in a vacuum, Nico Iamaleava versus Joey Aguilar, who's better? I think Nico Iamaleava this year would be better than Joey Aguilar is going to be, even though I think Joey Aguilar will be fine. And I think the talent they have gotten around him will be fine. The show represented by Banks & Jones, as is today's tough question. Tennessee's trial attorney, play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott.
The poll question up, would Nico Iamaleava have been great with the Vols this year had he stayed? 39% say yes, 61% say no. I gotta say I agree with the 39%. I think he would have been great, honestly. I think he could have taken a huge leap forward. Look, I was way too early, and I'll give you guys that on my jumping in on Nico Iamaleava. I'll be the first to acknowledge I was way too early when I jumped in on Nico Iamaleava. I said he was created in a lab to run Josh Heupel's system. That clearly wasn't the case. He wasn't fully created in a lab to run Josh Heupel's system. So he obviously needed some development, and I should have listened to Jimmy Hyams, who was a little bit hesitant on jumping on the Nico train so early. I wanted to be bold, and it kind of bit me last year. Excuse me, guys. However, with that in mind, I still think that Nico, I think he still could have been great. Again, I think there were a lot of other issues facing Nico Iamaleava and Tennessee last year. And when you take all of those into account, I think it's hard to sit there and say that Nico Iamaleava or Tennessee, that it's hard to say that Nico Iamaleava wouldn't be a lot better this year. Again, Nico Iamaleava was dealing with a go-to receiver in Bru McCoy, who was a full step slower than he was in previous years. Okay, so I think Nico has a beautiful deep ball. Joey Aguilar doesn't have that deep ball. Joey Aguilar is a gunslinger who throws better zip over the middle. That's not as important in Josh Heupel's system. Josh Heupel wants to scheme those deep balls. And we also have to add this part. Because Dylan Sampson led the league in rushing led the SEC in rushing and set the school record for rushing yards and touchdowns, it's a very good chance that teams this year facing Tennessee would not play that 3-3-5 shell as much, meaning Nico would have way more opportunities for the deep balls had he stayed at Tennessee. So when you add all that together, it's really hard to think that Nico Iamaleava wouldn't have been great had he stayed at Tennessee. The problem is Nico Iamaleava would have cost a lot of money. So at that point, yes, Joey Aguilar is more worth it. But in general, yeah, no, I think Nico Iamaleava would have been fine. And I think Paul Feinbaum's right. Joey Aguilar will be good. Nico could have been great. But that's more about what Nico threw away than what Tennessee threw away, because Tennessee was able to upgrade elsewhere around it. I think the issue with Nico, with Tennessee right now, is not so much quarterback. It's a few other positions where they lost some talent, and their schedule's not as conducive this year. The schedule is easy except for those 3 games they have: Florida on the road, Alabama on the road, and then Georgia at home. They're going to have to steal one of those, because the overall schedule strength will be low enough to where 9-3 won't get them into the college football playoff. And that's why they're playing with one hand tied behind their back. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. It is time for some hot or cold, and it's brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Josh Heupel was all the way down at number 16 on the CBS Sports Power 4 college football head coaching ranking. Yeah, that's right, down at number 16. Now, he was third on the all-time list of college football coaches as players, behind only Deion Sanders and Eddie George, believe it or not. Isn't that interesting? But yes, he was third. I'm sorry, he was 16th on the all-time list, on the current list of head coaches. That follows the USA Today ranking, which put him at number, I believe the USA Today head coaching ranking has Josh Heupel down. I'm pulling it up now. Sorry, guys, I lost my train of thought. But Josh Heupel in the USA Today head coaching ranking is down at number 17. Now, Andy Staples has Josh Heupel at number 12. And, Greg McElroy has Josh Heupel at number 12. Andy Staples has Josh Heupel at number 11. Let's play hot or cold and see which of these coaches should be better than Josh Heupel, or will go down as a better coach than Josh Heupel, or at least should be above them. So hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. CityHeatandAir.com. City Heating and Air. CityHeatandAir.com. Hot or cold, let's look at the people who are ahead of Josh Heupel among all these rankings. And we start with Kirby Smart. I'm hot. You're hot. We're all hot. Kirby Smart deserves to be ahead of Josh Heupel. Now, Kirby Smart has a significantly easier job than Josh Heupel. Georgia is one of the top 3 jobs in the country. Georgia, LSU, and Georgia, LSU, and Ohio State are the 3 easiest jobs in all of college football. There are no close seconds. Those are tier 1 by themselves alone, the easiest jobs, and Kirby Smart has it. So, but still, his accomplishments, I put him ahead of Josh Heupel. So Kirby Smart is number 1. Ryan Day at Ohio State, number 2. Again, very easy job, but at the end of the day, Ryan Day has a national title. I'm hot on Ryan Day being ahead of Josh Heupel. Dabo Swinney at Clemson. Yes, I'm hot on Dabo Swinney at Clemson. And all of them have Dabo Swinney ahead of Josh Heupel, but he belongs. He's got 2 national titles, and he's got it at a place that it's not a lock to win a national title. So with that in mind, yeah, no, I'm hot on Dabo Swinney at Clemson being ahead of Josh Heupel. Steve Sarkisian at Texas. I'm cold on him, guys. I'm cold on him. Now, Steve Sarkisian has a much more decorated coaching career than Josh Heupel, outside of what got him fired at USC, but he did turn Washington around back in the day before Chris Peterson got there. He was a great quarterbacks coach at USC. He did win the Big 12. He's made 2 college football playoff appearances the last 2 years. But the first one was in Texas. It was when Texas was in the Big 12. And then he made it last year because Texas got the easiest draw in the history of SEC football scheduling. So I actually think Josh Heupel, through his tenure, has done a better job than Steve Sarkisian. And that may sound crazy, but to this point, I think he has. I think Steve Sarkisian is a great developer of talent, but very, very, very overrated as a head coach. I mean, very overrated. Dan Lanning at Oregon. I'm hot on him. I know he lost first game last year at the college football playoff, but getting to the college football playoff, I think he is better right now and has done a better job than Josh Heupel. Will that last? We don't know, but I have to be hot on Dan Lanning. I can't sit there and pretend that what he hasn't done isn't significant. So Dan Lanning at Oregon, yes, I'm hot on him absolutely being ahead of Josh Heupel. As of right now, again, things could change, but as of right now, Dan Lanning, Oregon, I'm hot on him. Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. I'm cold on him. I know Notre Dame went to the national title last year, and I give Marcus Freeman a lot of credit for the job he did as head coach last year at Notre Dame. Okay, he got them to 14-2. They made it to the national title game. They lost. He has gone 9-4, 10-3, 14-2 at Notre Dame. He's done an incredible job. He's doing as well as Brian Kelly did there, and better than Brian Kelly has been doing at LSU so far. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He's proven me wrong in so many ways. But Notre Dame last year, I mean, I have to bring this up. Their best win in the regular season was Indiana, the best win in the regular season, was probably Louisville. You can maybe say Texas A&M or Louisville. Both had 4 losses. And he hasn't, and yes, he got hot in the playoff. But let's think about who he got hot beating. He got hot beating an Indiana team that had no business going to the playoff at home. Then he beat a Georgia team that didn't have their quarterback. And then he beat Penn State. So Penn State, I give him credit for, but they didn't really have any blow you away impressive wins before that. And I think just long-term, Josh Heupel is a better value coach than Marcus Freeman. But again, I'm not trying to take anything away. I think Marcus Freeman has done an incredible job there. James Franklin, Penn State. I know a lot of people would disagree with me on this, but I'm hot on James Franklin being above Josh Heupel just for the Vanderbilt work, just for what he did at Vanderbilt. That's enough for me to be hot on James Franklin. What he did at Vanderbilt is more than enough because that is incredible. That's an incredible job that he did that at Vanderbilt. So I'm hot on James Franklin. All right. Brian Kelly, LSU. It's time to drop Brian Kelly below Josh Heupel. If I had a choice over who to hire right now, I would hire Josh Heupel. I'm cold on Brian Kelly. He has underachieved at LSU. I still maintain he's the best coach LSU has had since Nick Saban. He's the only coach with brain cells LSU has had since Nick Saban, but I can't defend what he's done, so I'm cold on Brian Kelly. He belongs below Josh Heupel. Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Bad first year. We're going to get to him later. I'm actually still hot on him, though. Doing what he did at Washington, the success he had, and keeping that team together with the quarterback and Jalen Milroe, who could not run his offense. I'm hot on Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Lane Kiffin at Tennessee. Okay. As an offensive mind, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, As an offensive mind, Lane Kiffin, I don't think we can take away from how good of an offensive mind he is, okay? Specifically offense. However, in terms of a culture and establishing a culture that could win a championship, I don't think he's capable of doing that, which is why, as of right now, I still have Josh Heupel ahead of Lane Kiffin, so I'm cold on Lane Kiffin. Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com. Quick message from them, and then we're going to talk about the disagreements that looking at coaches that were ahead of Josh Heupel in some rankings, but not others. First, a quick message from City Heat and Air.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
All right, I'm putting up the poll question right now. Where does Josh Heupel's rank belong among CFB head coaches? Top 5, top 10, top 25. He's a bad coach. Yes, I bet he's a bad coach is the fourth one. Okay, so where does Josh Heupel's rank belong among college football head coaches? Top 5, top 10, top 25. He's a bad coach. Okay, so now let's go look at coaches in different rankings who were ahead of Josh Heupel. And we start with Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I think Matt Campbell's really riding a wave of just 1 year where he had a ranked season at Iowa State and played for the Big 12 title. Okay, 2 years. And then has just been a solidly above 500 coach outside of that. But I can't put Matt Campbell ahead of Josh Heupel. I still think you could do more than what he's done at Iowa State, even though it hasn't been done in the past. So I'm cold on Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I'm sorry. I am cold on Matt Campbell at Iowa State. He doesn't belong on that list. Kyle Whittingham at Utah. Yeah, Kyle Whittingham, I'm hot on. I think Kyle Whittingham belongs ahead of Josh Heupel. Look, Kyle Whittingham went 13-0 with Utah in 2008. He's had a consistently solid program at Utah since they joined the Pac-12. I mean, they won back-to-back Pac-12 titles in 2021 and 2022. Yes, they did just go 5-7. They lost Cam Rising, their quarterback, at the beginning of the year. It's a hard place to win there. I think Kyle Whittingham has done a very good job. I'm very high on the job he's done there. Lincoln Riley, USC. For those who don't remember, Josh Heupel was fired as offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, so they can make room for Lincoln Riley. Cold on Lincoln Riley. Josh Heupel's the better coach, and people need to stop saying otherwise. Josh Heupel actually, despite being an offensive coach, does value defense. Lincoln Riley doesn't, and Lincoln Riley and Josh Heupel's offenses both took a bit of a step back last year, but Josh Heupel actually adjusted. Lincoln Riley didn't. Josh Heupel's a better coach than Lincoln Riley, so I'm cold on Lincoln Riley. Sorry. These are my opinions, therefore they're the right ones. Chris Kleiman at Kansas State. Cold on Chris Kleiman. He's done a very good job at Kansas State, but he's been there for 6 years now and has yet to have fewer than 4 losses. Josh Heupel in his second year at Tennessee went 11-2. Now you can say Tennessee's a better job. It wasn't a better job when Josh Heupel took over. Bill Snyder had a couple of seasons at Kansas State where he only had 2 losses, and Kansas State's in the Big 12. He should be doing better. Josh Heupel is a better coach than Chris Kleiman. I'm cold on Chris Kleiman. Lance Leipold at Texas. Lance Leipold was a Danny White hire, believe it or not, when he was at Buffalo. White found him before anybody else. I love the job Lance Leipold has done at Kansas. I'm very high on him. I mean, he had Kansas finish in the top 25 in 2023. A much harder job than going 10-4 at Kansas State, but still hasn't accomplished enough to be better than Josh Heupel at this point. He does have a losing record at Kansas. So with that in mind, I'm cold on Lance Leipold, but I would listen to an argument for Lance Leipold. Now, that's from the CBS rankings, and Josh Heupel is down at number 16 in the CBS rankings. But there's some other rankings that have other coaches added Josh Heupel too. We're going to go to those. Curt Cignetti at Indiana. Come on, guys. Come on. I'm cold on Curt Cignetti being better than Josh Heupel. Curt Cignetti is a very good coach. What he did his first year at Indiana, going 11-2, is very impressive. Just like when Josh Heupel went 11-2, Josh Heupel did it with a much tougher schedule than Curt Cignetti did. I need a little bit more before I jump on the Curt Cignetti train to say he's better. But he did have a good first year at Indiana. So I am a fan of him overall. Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. Cold. Josh Heupel's better than Kirk Ferentz. It's ridiculous to suggest otherwise. Jeff Brom at Louisville is the final one. Now, for those who don't know, Tennessee almost hired Jeff Brom during the disastrous post-Butch Jones, Greg Schiano flop coaching search in 2017. They had a deal in place, but John Curry couldn't get approval from the administration. He goes back to the administration for approval. Then Jeff Brom rejects the job afterwards. But Jeff Brom at Louisville, 10-4, 9-4 the past few years, got Purdue to 8-5. By the way, Purdue with Jeff Brom beat Tennessee in the Music City Bowl and beat Josh Heupel head-to-head. Jeff Brom's had success at Western Kentucky. This is a tough one, but as of right now, I'm cold on Jeff Brom versus Josh Heupel. I'm giving Josh Heupel the edge just a little bit. So I'm cold on Jeff Brom. So when I go back to who I'm cold on with, I've got Josh Heupel of the top 10. I've got Josh Heupel ahead of Steve Sarkisian and Marcus Freeman and Brian Kelly. He should be, and Matt Campbell. He should be ahead of those 4. Plus he should be ahead of 1, 2, 3. I got Josh Heupel top 10 as a coach right now. If we're going to do the poll question, I have him roughly around number 8. We'll go there. I have him roughly around number 8. So where does Josh Heupel's rank belong among college football head coaches? Top 5, top 10, top 25. He's a bad coach. No one says he's a bad coach. Top 10 and top 25 are tied for the lead with 38% apiece, and top 5 is 23%. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. Hooked. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NCAA football cover and Tennessee not having a player on it, why that's relevant. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. It is time for This Day in Tennessee Sports History. And it is a happy birthday to Mike DeFelice. You guys may not know him, but he was a journeyman catcher in Major League Baseball for a full 13 years. He played catcher for Tennessee in the late 80s, early 90s, was taken in the 1991 MLB draft. Played for the Cardinals in 96 and 97, played for the Rays from 98 to 2001. And then in the middle of 2001, got traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks, got into a big fight during that time in a game against the Pittsburgh Pirates with Kevin Young at home plate, was suspended for 2 games, and then still stayed with Arizona and was part of that team that went on to win the World Series that year, 2002, went back to St. Louis. In 96 and 2002, he was in the NLCS, won the World Series in 2001, played for the Royals in 03, the Tigers in 04, the Cubs in 04. Again, they were in the playoff hunt during that time, didn't go anywhere. The Mets from 2005 to 2007, and the Tampa Bay Rays went back to them in 2008. A 13-year career, and has been a manager since. A happy birthday to Mike DeFelice. He is now 56 years old. He was born in Philly, played baseball, played catcher at Tennessee. This Day in Tennessee Sports History is brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is down below, and link is in the chat now as well. Again, Peak IV Hydration. Also, I'm growing my own audience, and I want you guys to be a part of this, where I talk a little. I have a new YouTube channel where I talk a little NBA and pro sports and things like that. It's called Sports Nightcap. I do it for fun. The link to that show is down below as well, and I'm putting that link in the chat as well. I wish you guys to, if you guys could, please like and subscribe to Sports Nightcap. We had some technical difficulties last night doing our live show, talking about that Knicks Pacers game in which Tom Thibodeau put on the worst coaching display in the history of basketball. And I went into that, and we're not just going to talk NBA, though. We'll talk NFL, baseball, things like that. So please like and subscribe to that. Link in the chat, and link also at the bottom of the description. If you click show more, you will find that. So please click on that. Now, moving on, Kalen DeBoer is shocked that Alabama missed the college football playoff. That's right. Kalen DeBoer is shocked that Alabama missed the college football playoff. It's What the H? Brought to you by Double D Piping Fire Protection Contractors. According to Kalen DeBoer, it was a shock that Alabama, which went 9-3 and lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma last year, that they missed the college football playoff. I kid you not, Alabama said that at the SEC spring meetings in Florida. Kalen DeBoer said that. Now, DeBoer told reporters on Tuesday, you wonder what would have happened, quote, you wonder what would have happened if other people would have played our schedule. We haven't held back in non-conference. How do you figure out strength of schedule when picking playoff teams from conference to conference when you don't play as many games as in basketball and other sports? Kalen DeBoer is trying to make the point that Alabama doesn't hold back on their schedule, and that's why they belonged in the college football playoff at 9-3. For those who don't remember, Alabama went 9-3 in the regular season. They lost to, like I said, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. They beat Wisconsin on the road 42-10 in non-conference play, which was a big game. They also played South Florida, a solid team. Here's the real problem with what Kalen DeBoer said. And I hate to admit this, guys, but Kalen DeBoer has a point. I know that's crazy to say, but who finished ahead of Alabama? Who finished ahead of Alabama this year? SMU finished ahead of Alabama because they had one regular season loss to BYU. SMU played two teams during the regular season that were ranked all year, Louisville and Pittsburgh. They beat both of them. Does anybody really believe either of those teams are that significant of wins, though, or outweigh Georgia as a win? And by the way, Pittsburgh finished 7-6. So SMU's best game was Louisville. All right. And with that in mind, does anybody have put any value on SMU schedule? Of course not. What about Indiana? Okay. Indiana, they played literally one ranked team during the regular season, lost to them 38-15, played 0 Power 5 non-conference teams. That one loss was to Ohio State. Kalen DeBoer has a point. You know who else has a point? Lane Kiffin. You know who else has a point? Shane Beamer. All three of them led 9-3 programs, and I don't know how you pick the two that get in. I would probably go South Carolina and Alabama at that point, but I do think there was some circular logic that hurt all of them. But if I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me on this, but I do believe the catch was Ole Miss beat South Carolina, Alabama beat South Carolina, but South Carolina was probably the best team at the end of the year. I mean, South Carolina went and beat Clemson, and then Clemson went and won the ACC. And South Carolina won at Clemson, by the way, with Lenora Sellers. Now, you guys can bring up the playoff results and the bowl game and all of that, but how do you look at what happened and say any of those teams that SMU or Indiana belonged over any of those teams? Now, here's why I'm going to what the H this. This is exactly why I hated the idea of college football playoff expansion to begin with. Because the truth of the matter is, SMU didn't belong, Indiana didn't belong, but neither did South Carolina, and neither did Alabama, and neither did Ole Miss. This is the problem with the 12-team playoff. There are not 12 teams that belong in the college football playoff, and there never were. There's never been more than about 5 or 6 teams that belong in the playoff. Any year, there's never been more about 5 or 6 that you would say have a legitimate shot to win a national championship. And the value and the importance of college football is that you try to make the regular season maximize as much as possible, at which point no 9-3 team should ever have a case. And when they do, you've ruined the regular season. Alabama had no business getting in. They lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, and they lost 24-3 to Oklahoma. It looked weird. It would have looked horrible watching them play for any sort of national title. That would ruin everything that's great about college football. But you know what? Based on the criteria set, they should have been in a 12-team playoff. They were one of the 12 best teams. I don't really care that they lost to Michigan in the bowl game, okay? I'm sorry. Based on the resume going in, they were one of the 12 best teams. Alabama and South Carolina were among the 12 best teams. Alabama and Ole Miss were among the 12 best teams. Again, you would have had to pick between Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. I don't know where you would have gone. South Carolina looked like the best team, but they lost to Ole Miss and Alabama. And so that's a little bit tricky. And they lost 27-3 to Ole Miss. So where do you go with that? I don't know. But I do know this. Two of those teams were better than SMU and Indiana. So Kalen DeBoer's right, but the problem is that he has a case. And that's what sucks about the college football playoff expansion. Okay? I'm sorry. It is. What the H brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
You guys let me know your thoughts. I am pretty high on the fact that the expansion of the college football playoff is why Kalen DeBoer has this case to make. So I'll let you guys vote. Okay. Kalen DeBoer saying Alabama belongs in CFP is ridiculous, accurate, or what is wrong, exactly the problem with expansion. And my vote is exactly the problem with expansion. Kalen DeBoer saying Alabama belongs in the CFP is exactly the problem with expansion. That has been my take the whole time. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that Kalen DeBoer has a case, and it's everything wrong with college football playoff expansion. And look, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a little while because there's other things to get to with it. But truth be told, Kalen DeBoer is right. Alabama belonged in the playoff last year, but they didn't deserve to be in a playoff. And that's the problem with the 12-team playoff. A 12-team playoff never includes people who deserve to be in the playoff, okay? Ever. A 12-team playoff never includes people who deserve to be there, or always includes people who don't deserve to be there. I think their goal was to make sure that you have no realistic chance of complaining if it's a 12-team playoff, but that's not the way this should work, okay? This is what I hate about the NCAA tournament in the 68-team field. I always hate when the 69th best team or the 70th best team or the team that was 1 spot out or 2 spot outs complain. I'm like, you had plenty of chances to get there. I think, and Nathaniel Kim says it best. You're right. 6 teams would have been fine. But yeah, after that, I did not see the curse word. Sorry, Nathaniel. I like what you said, but we try not to show curse words on the show. But you are absolutely right. Nathaniel, 6 teams. Most of the data shows that's all you need year to year to have a college football playoff, because there's never more than 6 that are really in the running. So with that, I would say Kalen DeBoer's right, but it's everything wrong with college football playoff expansion. Now, the poll question, Kalen DeBoer saying Alabama belonged in CFP is ridiculous, accurate, exactly the problem with expansion. You guys seem to disagree with me. I see you guys are saying the majority of you guys are saying ridiculous at 56%, 22% say accurate, 22% say exactly the problem with expansion. I'm totally leaning on it is exactly the problem with expansion. I think Kalen DeBoer is accurate, but it's the problem with expansion, and that's just how it is. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service, automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, "Hey, Mo, Off the Hook Sports sent you." QualityTirePros.com. When we come back, we are going to talk about the NCAA football cover and how it relates to Tennessee. Stick with us. 2 minutes Off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, And Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports, portions of the program brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. It is time for Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. And it's going to deal with the NCAA football cover. The new NCAA football cover is out, and it includes 2 true freshman wide receivers from last year going into their sophomore year. I'm obviously talking about Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State and Ryan Williams at Alabama. Those guys were ballers last year. Jeremiah Smith torched Jermon McCoy. Ryan Williams torched Georgia last year. And well-earned and well-deserved. However, Tennessee also had a freshman wide receiver last year who was a 5-star. And he was playing in an offense more conducive to a dominant passing attack than either of those guys were. And I'm talking, obviously, about Mike Matthews. Now, in terms of 247 Sports composite rankings, Mike Matthews wasn't rated as highly as those guys. Mike Matthews was the 24th best player in the nation entering the 2024 recruiting class per 247 Sports composite. Jeremiah Smith was number 1. Ryan Williams was number 3. Matter of fact, to be fair to Mike Matthews, he was actually 5th on the list of receivers because, 6th, because Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, Ryan Williams, Micah Hudson, and TJ Moore were all ahead of Mike Matthews. So you can make the case that we're being a little unfair about the idea of him not being in the list with Smith and Williams. However, a lot of Tennessee fans did not take too kindly to Mike Matthews not making the same type of splash that Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith made last year. I've always thought that was a little bit unfair. Okay. And the reason I've always thought that was a little bit unfair is because Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith Jeremiah Smith was much more highly rated. Ohio State always spreads the ball around a lot more in the spread offense. And by spreading the ball around a lot more, they can find more freshman receivers to make an impact. Ryan Williams was playing with a new coach who was trying to make things work with Jalen Leroy. He's obviously going to go more with his freshmen. Josh Heupel, his system Typically, true freshman receivers don't figure it out in a year. And to be fair to Josh Heupel, he had no reason for them to do it last year because he had 3 veteran receivers in the system in Squirrel White, Dante Thornton, and Brew McCoy. Now, he got a bad break in that Brew McCoy didn't fully recover from his broken leg a year ago. They thought he would. He was listed as 100% by the medical staff, but he had clearly lost a step. That's fine in the sense of it doesn't mean that Josh Heupel should be held accountable for Mike Matthews not being ready to go last year. I think that's a little unfair. Okay. So I think Mike Matthews, quite honestly, could have a much bigger impact. So the NCAA 26 video game cover, for those of you tuning in, again, has Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams on the cover on it. But I'm going to do one of my biggest bank on it's yet. And yes, I'm going here. And it's Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Bank on it. Mike Matthews will be on the cover of next year's NCAA football video game. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
That's right. Bank on it. Mike Matthews will be on the cover of next year's NCAA football video game, NCAA football 2027. Now, I predicted Nico Iamaleava would be on the cover of this year's video game, and I was wrong. So I'm already eating some crow, and I'm taking some L's. But let me break down what I think is going to happen here. I already told you guys that I thought Nico Iamaleava could have been a superstar on this year's team. I do think the passing game is going to be better no matter what than it was last year. I think Joey Aguilar will be better than Nico Iamaleava was last year, but Nico Iamaleava would have been better than Joey Aguilar is going to be this year. And the biggest reason is the receiving core has improved because Mike Matthews is capable of being a number one. He was unguardable in spring practice, reportedly, okay? They were throwing the ball up and letting him make a play. Chris Brazzell is the perfect complementary to Mike Matthews. He's a possession receiver on the other side that you can't just leave alone, so Mike Matthews has a chance to make a ton of big plays. And I think Braylon Staley and, yes, Boo Carter coming in the slot spreads things out that will allow Mike Matthews to make a huge impact. Now, here is the key to this. Josh Heupel's system is one that allows quarterbacks to shine. Tennessee's quarterback, Joey Aguilar, will not be here next year. Will not be there. He's gone. He'll be out of eligibility. Where will they go? They'll go with the receiver. Since Josh Heupel's been at Tennessee, when he has his offense rolling at its best, he usually has one guy soak up all the stats. Okay, Cedric Tillman in 2021 was a 1,000-yard receiver. Jalen Hyatt in 2022 won the Biletnikoff with 1,267 yards. There's going to be one guy get the bulk of the catches. That one guy, I believe, will be Mike Matthews. Won't be Braylon Staley or Boo Carter because we're going to alternate them in slot. Remember this, too. The biggest reason Jalen Hyatt had such an impact in 2022, I think largely was because Cedric Tillman went down with an injury. So Brew McCoy became the valuable dictate coverage go-to receiver, which he couldn't dictate coverage last year, with Ramel Keaton as a possession receiver opposite McCoy. And I think that there was a lot of scouting done on Brew McCoy, which allowed Jalen Hyatt to have such an impact. But Hendon Hooker, his favorite target was Tillman. They had more of a rapport, honestly. I think this year Mike Matthews is going to have that rapport with Joey Aguilar. He's a safety blanket. Now, Chris Brazzell will also be a safety blanket because you can throw it up to Chris Brazzell. But Mike Matthews is a guy that can make a ton of big plays immediately. So, yeah, I think that Mike Matthews is going to be a superstar. So my big bank on it, it won't be alone. He won't be the sole guy, but Mike Matthews will be on the cover of NCAA football 27. There are obviously other weapons. You could talk Peyton Lewis at Tennessee, who's a rising star. You could talk, you could say nobody's going to be on the cover, or you could even say Jermon McCoy, although I think he'll be gone. But I'm going to go ahead and put that poll question up. Will Mike Matthews be on the cover of next year's NCAA football video game? And you guys just say yes or no. Look, one of the big signs for Tennessee, this is why I actually kind of said that they should have started a younger quarterback, either McIntyre or Merklinger this year rather than go for a transfer like Joey Aguilar. All their key weapons are back next year, assuming the transfer portal doesn't have them leave it. They make sure they spend the money to keep their guys. Everybody that's expected to be a key star, that's a standout player, is only in their second year or younger. Think about this. Boo Carter, he has to be back in 2026. My mind just drew a blank. Mike Matthews, he has to be back in 2026. David Sanders Jr., he has to be back in 2026. Peyton Lewis, he has to be back in 2026. You have a core of weapons you can build around going into 2026 that if you had your quarterback coming back would be a much bigger deal. That's why I think they should have stuck with McIntyre or Merklinger, whoever won the job, so they can move forward in the future with that guy. Either way, though, I think the offense will be much better this year. I think Mike Matthews will be a big playmaker. And so I think Mike Matthews will be on the cover of NCAA Football 27 on the heels of Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams being on it this year. Now, I don't know who else will be on the cover. They're going to put multiple guys, but I could see another Biletnikoff style, Jalen Hyatt style season from Mike Matthews. Again, as the wideout, though, not as the slot receiver, because, again, it kind of alternates between how Josh Heupel chooses who to throw to based on the personnel. Point being, though, Mike Matthews will be on the cover. Now, as far as the poll question, will Mike Matthews be on the cover of next year's NCAA football video game? Well, it looks like you guys disagree with me. 75% say no, 25% say yes. Well, I disagree with all of you. Mike Matthews will be on the cover. And you know what? I'm going to change the poll question because Adam says boo. Okay, how about this? Let's end this. Which Vol is most likely to be on the cover of next year's NCAA football video game? And we'll go Mike Matthews, Boo Carter, Peyton Lewis, or somebody else. You guys vote on that. I'm still leaning Mike Matthews. But I can see Boo Carter. If Boo Carter does play both sides and becomes a major impact player on both sides, I could see him on the cover, particularly with the Travis Hunter storyline this past year. If he gets what if Boo Carter gets 1,000 yards? What if Braylon Staley gets hurt and Boo Carter becomes the full-time slot receiver? That would be pretty impressive to talk about. You guys seem to disagree with me. It seems like Boo Carter right now is leading the way, but we're going to talk about that poll question a little bit down the road. We'll revisit it when this is all done. But I would say Mike Matthews. That's my vote. You guys give your vote. Portions of the program are brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily updates, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN. Also, a reminder to check me out tonight. I will be doing a live recap. Excuse me, not tonight. Well, yes, check me out tonight. I will be doing a live recap of the NBA playoffs on Sports Nightcap, my other channel, where I talk sports on a more broad basis. Link is in the description at the bottom and is in the chat right here. Sports Nightcap is the name of the YouTube channel. We had technical difficulties last night. We're just getting this thing off the ground, but we're having a lot of fun doing it and want you guys to be a part of it. Please subscribe and like our video. It will be live shows at the end of the biggest live event that night. That's how we're going to do that. Timothy McGee hops in with a super chat and says, but Caleb, if Merklinger gets it, then Faison Brandon would decommit, LOL, according to some of the fans. Yeah, you are right about that's a pretty good one, guys. Okay, so you are right, Timothy, that some fans do think that way. And it's kind of a flaw in the obsession with recruiting, and that everybody sometimes thinks about what should be done for the purposes of recruiting and as opposed to what should be winning in the moment in that instance. And that is one of the problems. As far as the poll question goes, which Vol is most likely to be on the cover of next year's NCAA football video game? Somebody else wins by a plurality at 45%. Then Boo Carter at 36%, and then Mike Matthews at 9%, and Peyton Lewis at 9%. It is time for the stat of the day. The stat of the day is this, and I'm going to stick with the receiver talking point. Mike Matthews is a sophomore. You guys know how much I believe in sophomores. Only 2 Tennessee receivers who aren't at least in their third year with the program have had 1,000 yards receiving in history. Only 2. That doesn't mean only 2 Tennessee receivers who were older than sophomores, because you can have redshirt sophomores. But only 2 Tennessee receivers who hadn't been with the program at least 3 years have had over 1,000 yards receiving in a year. Those 2 are Kelly Washington in 2001, when he was a true freshman and had over 1,000 yards. And you're going to laugh at this one, Derrick Rogers in 2011, when he had 1,040 yards, led the SEC in receiving that year, and then was kicked off the team the next year when he could have played with Cordarrelle Prattis and Justin Hunter in what would have been an epic receiving corps. The other receivers, Robert Meacham, who has the all-time record with 1298, he was a junior. Jalen Hyatt was a junior. He's second. Marcus Nash is third, was a senior. Justin Hunter is fourth, was a junior in 2012. Cedric Tillman in 2021 was a redshirt senior, but had another year of eligibility. So for all intents and purposes, was a junior. Joey Kent was a senior in 96. Joey Kent was a junior in 95. And Lucas Taylor was a junior in 2007. Those were the other 1,000-yard receivers. The stat of the day is brought to you by Work Trucks. Are all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when it comes to choosing a vehicle for work trucks, cargo vans, utility body trucks with the nap-hide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, remember Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and in downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com, worktrucksllc.com with an X. Why risk chasing your future and business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Worktrucksllc.com. Work Trucks will also work to make sure that you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll even find a perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X, llc.com. WorkTrucksLLC.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. When we come back, we're going to talk about the SEC spring meetings and why I think the league is staying at 8 games. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. It is time to close out the show with the SEC spring meetings. SEC coaches, athletic directors, and Commissioner Greg Sankey are down in Destin this week discussing all things SEC related, scheduling, rules, all that type of stuff. It's during this week, during the spring meetings. That's where you're hearing all this debate about the college football playoff and expansion and what everybody's talking about. I am going to talk a little bit about something I've realized is very key. Earlier this year, it came out that ESPN was willing to spend more money on a rights agreement with the SEC to alter the contract if the SEC would go to 9 conference games. Greg Sankey has been pushing for 9 conference games. The problem is the coaches haven't gotten on board. And after the way last year's college football playoff selection committee went, they were right to not get on board. I'm just going to tell you guys this. They won't fix that issue this week. There will not be, they will not move to 9 conference games and have an agreement to do that after this week. I'm going to tell you why. It's going to be 4 downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. 4 downs right now. First down. Why? Evidence that they will not move to 9 conference games. First piece of evidence. Greg Sankey just openly said it. He said the college football playoff selection process is impacting the SEC schedule length. He said, I think the CFP selection process has become a much bigger deal. And again, if you go back, I said CFP selection, we're going to go through this 16-team, 8-game first time. We have schools that think about bowl games primarily in that. But the question is about the selection process, not criticism of the committee, but criteria and process are meaningful. That's a lie. He was criticizing the committee. Kalen, DeBoer complained about the same thing about Alabama scheduling tough out of conference because Indiana got rewarded for, even though the Big Ten has a 9-game schedule, Indiana played the 3 group of 5 non-conference teams and played the worst 8 teams in the Big Ten with the 9-game schedule. So that's the first sign, honestly, that the SEC is not going to 9 games. The second sign is what Trev Alberts said. Trev Alberts said, quote, if we get where we can with the college football playoff, it makes sense. Now, many of you may remember Trev Alberts from ESPN back in the day. Trev Alberts is now the athletic director at Texas A&M. And as of right now, he said it doesn't make sense. And basically, he said it doesn't make sense if the conference is not guaranteed spots in the college football playoff. Again, this is where the SEC coaches and athletic directors are landing because they feel they got punished last year, many of them for playing 1 extra tough out-of-conference game, and that the committee didn't value schedule strength. The committee, not the SEC, is responsible for the SEC not going to 9 games on the schedule, okay? Because of the way they set up rewards for postseason, all right? And so they want the SEC guaranteed some playoff spots, or they want the committee to do a better job than they did last year evaluating schedule strength. They're right on that. You got to look out for the best thing in your program. This is just how it goes. Third bit of evidence, but that's also evidence that they just aren't that interested in going to 9 games because you see the athletic directors talking about it. Third bit of evidence, and this is the big one. Greg Sankey has already revealed a model for an 8-game schedule if the 8-game schedule remains. I kid you not. He's already revealed a model. According to Andy Staples on X, he said if the SEC winds up sticking with an 8-game conference schedule, there are models to protect more than 1 rivalry team. He said they might protect 2 rivalry teams. Now, for years, they made sure to get certain calendar dates despite teams not being in the same division when it was the East and West, Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, Georgia. They went Texas A&M. All of those make sense. The question becomes, which 2 rivalries for Tennessee will be protected? Because Tennessee has 3 of the 10 oldest rivalries in the SEC: Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Alabama. One of those has to go. If you're Tennessee, you love Alabama, but at the same time, I mean, Vanderbilt and Kentucky, you kind of love that being your annual rivalries, don't you? It's a huge advantage. I'm going to ask that question now. Which SEC rivalry would you rather see go? Which Tennessee rivalry would you rather see go? Would you want to lose? Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. I know I'm crazy. I'm voting Alabama. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I want to play Kentucky and Vanderbilt every year. I want to go to a super chat real quick again. I apologize. I missed it. Timothy asked, is Tennessee going to be kicked out of the SEC for not following a flawed ruling? Timothy, I talked about that yesterday. Basically, no, what's going to happen is if Tennessee were to get kicked out, they would sue. It would go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will rule in favor of Tennessee because the Sherman Antitrust Act won't. Basically, the Tennessee state law is requiring the Tennessee member schools to comply with what the Antitrust Act says, but the House settlement is going to have these power conferences come to an agreement that violates the Antitrust Act. And so Tennessee would have to choose between violating state and federal law or getting kicked out of the SEC and suing the SEC and the power conferences for violating federal law. Tennessee's on solid ground. They're not going to get kicked out of the SEC with that. They have all the power. Anyways, back to which Tennessee rivalry would you want to lose? Alabama, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. Okay, Vanderbilt wins by a majority at 67%. Alabama, Kentucky tied at 17%. I'd want to lose Alabama. And that's crazy, but I would. Winning matters more than anything, guys. Sorry. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. We'll bring you 4th down after this quick message from them.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford.
4th down. What is my official prediction for the SEC spring meetings coming out of this with the 9-game schedule? Here's my official prediction. There will be absolutely nothing change with the SEC this year, and they will be locked into an 8-game schedule. However, when the SEC spring meetings happen next year, regardless of the schedule they put out or anything like that. No, excuse me, I take that back. When the SEC spring meetings happen next year, they will move to a 9-game schedule. Now, they will move to a 9-game schedule for 2026. Now, that's going to mean dropping opponents that they have agreed to play that they'll have to buy out of, because everybody will have agreed to play 4 teams by that point out of conference. It won't matter. The SEC will pay the cost, pay the difference, and call it a day. ESPN might even pay the difference. That might be part of the SEC's negotiation. And here's why it'll happen next year. By the end of this year, the College Football Playoff Committee will begin, and they will be holding all the cards. The SEC and the Big Ten will hold all the cards in the next college football playoff format. Greg Sankey actually doesn't want automatic qualifiers in the college football playoff, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow. If you listen to the SEC, they would just prefer a 16-team playoff and a 5+11 model. The SEC would dominate that number of teams getting in anyway, so they don't need the automatic qualifiers. The Big Ten wants the automatic qualifiers. However, while the SEC as a conference doesn't want it, SEC teams do. Because there's an incentive not to go to 9 games. Otherwise, they don't trust the committee. So with that, to make Greg Sankey will go along with the Big Ten and the automatic qualifiers to make sure he can get the 9-game schedule, at which point they'll be able to negotiate a better deal from ESPN that'll pay out. Now, again, I wouldn't take the deal that ESPN initially offered. I would go way higher than that. I talked about that a few weeks ago, what ESPN offered more for a 9th game. I'd go much higher than what they offered, but I would negotiate that. I would do the automatic qualifiers if I'm the SEC, and then I would go to 9 conference games next year and then have one big out-of-conference game for every team. That's how I would do it. That's what I predict is going to happen. Now, the poll question, which rivalry game would you rather Tennessee lose? I'm sticking with that. It's a little bit of fun. And 46% say Kentucky, 46% say Alabama, Vanderbilt, 8% say Alabama. Guys, I actually disagree with you guys on that. I totally disagree with you. I'd rather lose Alabama. I get the point of tradition, but you know what? Tradition, transmission, because if you supported an expanded playoff, if you supported an expanded conference, if you supported any of the changes that have come to college football in the recent years, you already threw tradition out the window. The minute you supported an expanded college football playoff, you made it clear you don't care about tradition. So don't lecture me about tradition if you supported an expanded college football playoff. With the expansion of the college football playoff, I think you got to throw all tradition out the window. I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I don't care because there is no reason for tradition when you expand the college football playoff. The college football playoff, by its very nature of expanding, has shunned tradition. Okay, so I say throw Alabama to the wayside and make Kentucky and Vanderbilt your rivalry games. You got to get the wins you need to get to the playoff. That's the way I would say it. Okay, so that's where I land. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and you, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Thank you all for tuning in today. I will be on tonight on my other show, Sports Nightcap, talking some basketball, talking some pro sports, things like that. Again, at Sports Nightcap, link is at the end of the description for this channel. I will also be back on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time to discuss all things college football with you guys. Going to have a lot of fun talking about Tennessee, more SEC spring meeting news, more college football playoff news. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Please hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, and tell a friend. We are building something great here at Off the Hook. Want you to be a part of it. You guys have a great rest of your day with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off